as a murder blows through the Windy City.
It was hot. It was hot. They were under tremendous pressure to solve it.
Allegations of an investigation spinning out of control quickly follow.
I was punched upside my head. I was punched in the stomach.
Can you feel this? Can you feel me?
Who knows what went on behind closed doors?
How many lives will be shattered in the process?
I was really asking her to stay home that day.
Why? Why didn't you believe him? Because I've seen many sociopaths in my life.
And will justice prevail?
I've always been told the truth will set you free.
My name is Aphrodite Jones. As a true crime author, I take on controversial cases. I track down the story behind the story, and I won't stop until I get the truth. In 1993, on the south side of Chicago, Tyrone Hood is a married father with 3 children. He works as a mechanic and volunteers at his church. Tell me about your life in 1993.
I had a comfortable life. I was working, had kids, I was married.
I love you, Mom.
I love you too.
My life, to me, was comfortable.
But spending more than 20 years behind bars has made that comfort a distant memory. I sat down with Tyrone in the Menard Correctional Center in Southern Illinois in late 2014.
Why? Just why me? But I thought about if they come out and say, look, this man is innocent, we made a mistake, it's going to make him look bad. I still think today that the state don't want to admit that they made a mistake.
Over the years, I've gotten countless letters from prisoners who claim to be falsely imprisoned, and I'm not ever sure I believe them. But in this case, this is one that compelled me to take on this story. It all begins in the spring of 1993 on the south side of Chicago. A custodian at Corliss High School is in love. His name is Marshall Morgan Sr.
He's a nice man. Very well-spoken, very articulate, friendly, warm.
The woman in his life is Michelle Soto, a popular computer science teacher.
She was a beautiful woman. She was building the school's computer lab on her own, really. See, that's it. That's it. It's simple. Okay.
Marshall and Michelle's attraction to one another is no secret.
Thinking about you.
Good, I've been thinking about you.
Yeah.
Stop teasing me.
We've been working so hard this year. I was thinking ahead to summer vacation.
Michelle is a divorced mom with a 10-year-old daughter named Michaela.
And can we go on more trips, please?
Yeah.
Morgan Sr. does what he can to win over little Michaela's heart as well.
And I have a surprise for you.
When he first came to the picture, what was he like? How was that for you as a child?
He was a really nice guy. He would buy whatever we wanted. He even took us on a trip to Disney World. Thank you.
While trying to build this new family, Morgan Sr. is also trying to stay connected to his previous one.
Hey, Michaela, I have a son.
He talks proudly about his son from his first marriage, a college sophomore and basketball star named Marshall Morgan Jr.
He was a very good basketball player, and he received a scholarship to go to IIT, that's the Illinois Institute of Technology.
This is a rekindled relationship for a father and son who've been estranged for over 15 years.
Go ahead.
How was Marshall Sr. with seeing his son?
They interacted just fine. It didn't seem like an estranged relationship.
Make you proud, eh? I'm already proud.
Do your thing. Show me what you got.
Although Morgan Jr. has his father back, he's dedicated to his mother, Marcia.
Oh, big night tonight, huh?
She raised him, her only child, all alone.
They're a little bit nervous.
On the day before Mother's Day, May 8th, 1993, her son's about to take a date out to a dance.
Hey, Mom.
Hey,
You mind if I use the car keys?
baby. Not at all. Are you forgetting something?
Mother's Day?
Yeah.
No, I cannot forget Mother's Day.
It's you and me tomorrow.
Of course it is.
He plans to return home that night so he can take his mom out for brunch the next morning.
you.
Be safe.
I will.
That afternoon, Morgan Jr. visits his father outside Corliss High School where he works.
Hey, what's up? Good. Yeah, I got that feeling. Got what?
He gave him some money so that he and his date could enjoy the night.
All right, enjoy yourself.
But Morgan Jr. never makes it to his date. It's the next morning, Mother's Day, and Marshall Morgan Jr. isn't home.
He's missing on Mother's Day? This is not a kid who wouldn't come home on Mother's Day.
He hasn't come home.
By that evening, Marcia is at her wit's end.
I need to report him missing.
The police launch a search, and Marcia's neighbors plaster the neighborhood with posters of Morgan Jr.
I don't think it took long for his mother to go into a state of complete and utter panic. And as the days ticked by, that panic had to turn to complete and utter dread.
Morgan Sr. and Michelle Soto are also distraught and do what they can to help. Then, 9 days into the search, police find Marcia's car parked on South Michigan Avenue. Inside is Marshall Morgan Jr.
He was wedged behind the driver's seat in the well, you know, where your feet are, and he had been shot in the stomach, shot at close range.
And he's nude from the waist down. Two families are in mourning, and a community is in shock as detectives try to figure out who killed this young man with such a bright future.
Marshall Morgan Jr., who was a rising basketball star, became what has been called a heater case.
It was hot. It was hot because he was last seen alive at IIT, so he was a student there, and the university didn't want their reputation hurt.
So they're putting pressure on the police to solve this murder.
Absolutely.
Knowing that the killer likely drove Marcia's car here, police dust it for prints. But there aren't any.
It was as if the car had been wiped out.
The police then focus on a pile of discarded liquor bottles on the floor of the passenger seat. Those have lots of fingerprints. Although most of the prints cannot be identified, one print on a beer bottle belongs to mechanic and family man Tyrone Hood. Police locate him just after he's brought his kids home from school.
They said for our own protection, we want to put handcuffs on you. So I said, okay. They put cuffs on me. We went to the station.
What kind of person was Tyrone Hood to what you found?
He was just a guy who was working, and he had a juvenile record, and it was nothing.
Where'd you come at? So you about this murder? You know, this Morgan Jr.? Yeah, I've read about it in the papers.
So they're asking you about this murder.
Yeah.
And what do you say?
They was asking me about, do I know Marshall Morgan Jr.? And, we believe you killed him. I'm like, what? So now I ain't killed nobody.
And what are they saying to you at that time, Tyrone?
Tell us how you killed him. You know you shot him.
I've never done anything. I mean, I'm a nice guy. I go to church.
But the police aren't buying it.
I've got your fingerprint found on a bottle in the car with a dead body, so I think you're lying to me. And it wasn't me. I wasn't there.
How do you think your fingerprints got into that crime scene?
I believe somebody planted everything that was sitting in that location as far as the front passenger floor.
Somebody planted that evidence.
Somebody had to. I had to. Because if they got my prints out of that car, and I know I have never seen that or been in that car, somebody put it there.
Tyrone doesn't know anyone who'd want to frame him. He believes it's just a random coincidence that the bottle with his fingerprint ended up in the car. Police speak with the victim's father, Marshall Morgan Sr. and what he says helps the police understand why Morgan Jr. was likely targeted.
He told the police that he gave him some money, and he claimed that that was the last time he saw him.
I gave him the money, he got in the car, and he drove off.
I believe he was the last person to see him.
And since Morgan Jr. was found without the money, police focus on robbery as Tyrone's motive. What's about to happen will spark a controversy for the Chicago police that has ripple effects to this day. Coming up.
Can you feel this? Can you feel me? You understand what I'm telling you right now?
Had his gun out. He said, you know what time it is? You know what time it is? I didn't say nothing. He said, it's time to die.
On the south side of Chicago, the day before Mother's Day in 1993, college basketball star Marshall Morgan Jr. is murdered. Police discover his body wedged inside his mother's abandoned car. On the floor of the front seat, in a pile of garbage, they find a bottle with Tyrone Hood's fingerprint on it. And when investigators grill Tyrone about the murder, they believe they have their man. But Tyrone has an alibi for the evening of the murder.
It was a Saturday. I was hanging out with my family, which was my kids and with my wife.
Tyrone names several neighbors who can verify his story. On the list is Wayne Washington, and Chicago detectives bring him in for questioning, while Tyrone remains in another interrogation room. According to Wayne, he's immediately treated like a murder suspect rather than a witness.
I was handcuffed to a chair, locked in a room.
This is Wayne's first police interrogation.
Tyrone tells us that you were with him on the night of that murder.
They was telling me that Tyrone Hood was going down for the murder no matter what. He can go down alone or we can go down together. I was going to tell him something.
So Wayne tells the detectives what he knows.
I was taking a walk. I saw them. I said hello. We were catching up.
Tyrone Hood and his wife was in front of the building. And when I was walking past, his wife told me that their daughter would be going to the same school that my daughter went to. He was outside in front of his house with his family.
We're talking about our daughters. Our daughters go to the same school. Look it up. That's a fact.
Wayne's account corroborates Tyrone's. But detectives believe there's more to the story than each man is telling them.
What more do you want from me, man?
I want you to tell me the truth.
Then, according to Tyrone, the detective's interrogation gets physical.
That's the story you're going with? Wait, what are you doing?
Detective hit me for no reason at all.
He punched you?
Yeah.
Look, you need to come up with a better story than that.
It wasn't me.
Verbally getting in my face, yelling at me, physically grabbing on me. Sometimes my neck, choking me.
Can you feel this? Can you feel me? You understand what I'm telling you right now?
He had his gun out. He said, you know what time it is? You know what time it is? I didn't say nothing. He said, it's time to die. He said, look, I could put 5 slugs in you right now and say, you tried to attack me. I said, go ahead and shoot me, man. At that point, I was done. I wanted this man to hurry up and shoot me. I didn't care about dying.
It wasn't me.
Tyrone's accusations are disturbing. We reached out to the Chicago PD to get their side of the story, but they have yet to respond to us. And Tyrone's not alone in his accusations.
Why are you touching me, man? Come on, man.
I was slapped. I was punched upside my head. I was punched in the stomach. The chair was kicked over. The chair was pushed over. It sat back up with me still handcuffed to it. And the process was repeated.
At the time, Renee Ferguson was an investigative reporter for WMAQ in Chicago. She covered cases of alleged excessive force by Chicago PD detectives inside these interrogation rooms. And back in 1993, interrogations in Chicago were not required to be recorded.
What was going on in that time period in terms of police brutality?
We had a culture here in which the police felt free to beat a confession out of a person, period.
You were vocal about
I
it.
was very vocal about it.
Who knows what went on behind closed doors without videotape running, without audio tape running? No matter what Tyrone claims the detectives did to him, he's always remained steadfast regarding his innocence.
I didn't know how this man really was killed. If I had the slightest information, if I thought my mother, and I hate to say this, if I thought my mother had anything to do with this case, she would have been locked up. Period.
So you would have told them...
I would have told them exactly what I knew. I just stuck with the truth. I've always been told the truth will set you free.
Tyrone then gives detectives the name of someone he thinks may have had something to do with the murder. Someone from his neighborhood, an ex-con by the name of Jody Rogers. Detectives bring Jody in for questioning.
Your name is tied to this murder. So you either saw Tyrone do this, or you heard something about this. Now you need to tell me what you know.
Man, I'm telling you, I don't know nothing.
According to Jody, detectives lean on him to implicate Tyrone and Wayne.
You're on parole right now, right? Armed robbery? Because you're an angel. You want to stay in jail forever?
We can keep you here for a very long time. Get used to this position.
Under pressure, Jody does confess to something the police can use.
I have a gun. I didn't know my gun. That's all I know. I wasn't there when it happened.
It's a huge break in the case. But should the police trust what Jody's saying? They turn their attention back to Wayne. But Wayne's got a problem.
I have no idea what they wanted me to tell them.
Now, if you really want to go home, tell me about Tyrone.
And that's when Wayne says the detectives tell him what he's going to say by preparing a statement for him to sign.
You sign it till you go home.
At the time, this is the state's theory of what went down.
So according to the state, what is it that Tyrone Hood and Wayne Washington supposedly did?
According to the state's theory, Tyrone Hood was high on drugs and wanted to continue to stay high.
Yo, what up, Jay? Crazy out here, man. What's happening with you?
And he was out of money, though. And so he was talking about doing a sting.
I need to do something, you know what I'm saying? I need to make some money out here, man.
A sting is a robbery. And Jody said, I can't do the sting with you because I am on parole, but I can get you a gun.
Look at that. That's what I'm talking about, baby. Yeah.
Did you get a gun from Jody Rogers?
No, I didn't.
So why does he say that you did?
I believe that Jody Rogers was forced and threatened to go back to the penitentiary if he didn't sign a statement on me.
Let's go. Come on.
In 1993, police say that Tyrone takes the gun and sets off with Wayne to find someone to rob.
According to the state's theory, Tyrone and Wayne Washington saw this guy get out of the car, and the guy was Marshall Morgan Jr., and they approached him now with the gun, demanded money. The gun accidentally goes off, or the gun goes off because you have a nervous trigger finger. They put him in the back seat of the car, then jump in the car and start driving the car around.
And what about the bottle in the car with Tyrone's print on it? At the time, the state believes while Tyrone drove around, he drank a beer before abandoning the vehicle. Exhausted, Wayne makes his fateful decision.
I just signed what they put in front of me because they told me I was going home.
But Wayne doesn't get to go home.
I was read my rights and took me downstairs to the lockup.
Come on, man. I didn't do nothing, man. Come on.
Police charge Wayne Washington and Tyrone Hood with first-degree murder. But did detectives pull the right man off the streets? In 1994, Jim Mullinex joins Tyrone's case as his public defender.
When I read the reports and I saw that fingerprints were found on transportable items and not anywhere else, that's when I thought this was evidence that was planted.
In 1995, 2 years after the murder of Morgan Jr., Mullinex gets a surprise from the man who said he gave Tyrone his gun, Jody Rogers.
Jody Rogers recanted a statement to you, right?
Correct.
Said it was all a lie.
Correct.
Oh, yeah.
How did he explain that to you?
Jody simply said that the police came to him and told him that either you implicate Tyrone or we charge you. So he knew how vulnerable he was.
Your name is tied to this murder.
And so therefore he gave the police what they wanted to know.
Mullinex then meets with Wayne, Tyrone's alleged accomplice. who says the exact same thing about his own confession.
I never seen Tyrone Hood shoot anybody. I never helped Tyrone Hood commit any crimes. Murder, armed robbery, or any crime. I never seen Marshall Morgan Jr. a day in my life, alive or dead.
Will these recanted statements be enough to get the case dismissed before it goes to trial? Mullinex is hopeful. Coming up.
She confided in her sister, saying, if anything ever happens to me, he's responsible.
I don't feel safe anymore.
She was afraid of him.
Absolutely.
It's 1993, and Tyrone Hood is the main suspect in the murder of college basketball star Marshall Morgan Jr. But Tyrone insists he's innocent. Chicago detectives allegedly turned the screws on two of Tyrone's neighbors, Jody Rogers and Wayne Washington. After Jody gives the police a story that satisfies them, they present Wayne with a prepared confession to sign. As for Morgan Sr., the murder of his son seems to be taking an emotional toll on him, and it begins to affect his relationship with his fiancée, Michelle Soto.
See, why is it when Michaela wants to go over there, you have to go over there too?
Because I have to drive her. What, do you want her to get in the car and drive herself?
You're just doing what you want.
Did they have any fights that you saw?
Yes.
Why you gotta go over there?
You know, you're not making me want to stay here.
I could just feel tension. I didn't feel comfortable there anymore. I think she was starting to realize she had made a mistake.
You with me, you with me.
Michelle tells those close to her the man that she had fallen in love with seems to be changing.
She confided in her sister, saying, if anything ever happens to me, he's responsible.
I don't feel safe anymore.
She was afraid of him.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now listen, I'm just going to drop you off at Grandma's for a little bit.
Tell me about the last time you ever saw your mother.
It was a Saturday, and she was doing a master's program at Chicago State.
I won't be long. I'll be right back. I promise. Okay?
I was really asking her to stay home that day.
Sweetheart.
You didn't want her to leave.
I didn't want her to leave.
Did you have some kind of feeling in your heart, or?
I knew that there was tension at her house.
I love you so much.
I just didn't want her away from us anymore.
Okay, I'll see you later.
But Michelle Soto does leave.
Get away from me!
And she's never heard from again. 8 days later, on July 17, 1995, her car is found. Michelle Soto has been shot to death.
When the investigators came to speak with me directly, I had said it was Marshall. I told him that my mom and Marshall were having problems, that they had been arguing. I told them all of that.
Did the police believe you?
They probably didn't.
Police then interview Marshall Morgan Sr.
I'm here to investigate the murder of your fiancé.
Okay.
He says his relationship with Michelle was going great.
Everything was fine. We were planning on getting married.
And he denies knowing anything about her death. Detectives can't find any physical evidence tying Morgan Sr. to the killing and clear him as a suspect. The case goes cold. 6 months after the murder, news reporter Renee Ferguson gets an urgent call.
The principal called me and said she was afraid. Marshall Morgan Sr. was their chief engineer, and they felt that he had something to do with the murder of their computer teacher, Michelle Soto.
Renee launches her own investigation of Morgan Sr. and learns about the murder of his son 2 years earlier.
I found that he was shot and found dead in his car in the same way that Soto was shot and found dead in her car.
Both Morgan Jr. and Michelle Soto were found wedged in the back of abandoned cars, and both were nude from the waist down.
Say MMO.
Say MMO, so it had to be one person who committing these crimes. As of that, I'm in prison, and these same acts are being carried out the same way. That means you don't have a killer. Killer's still out there.
When Renee and her cameraman go to Corliss High School to talk to the principal, that's not the only interview she gets that day.
He happened to come out and walked up to me on the sidewalk, and we talked. And he said he was devastated that Michelle had died. And he was very, very convincing.
So did you believe him at that time?
No,
Why? Why didn't you believe him?
because I've seen many sociopaths in my life.
15, maybe 26, 15.
He was devastated, but there were no tears. He was so sad, but not really. He was really good. A good liar.
Renee digs deeper into Morgan Sr.'s past. She discovers while he hasn't been charged in either his son's or Michelle's murder, he's no stranger to violence. Back in 1977, Morgan Sr. got into a dispute with a friend named William Hall.
It was over money.
I need my $700 back.
They had a dispute over a loan that Hall owed Morgan.
You're running out of time. You're seriously running out of time. And I'm done with it. And I'm done with you.
And Hall ended up dead.
Morgan Sr. is convicted of manslaughter and sentenced to 7 years. When Renee digs further, she uncovers information about Morgan Sr.'s troubled finances. In 1993, while Morgan Sr. is reconnecting with his son, he's also in debt. He takes a life insurance policy out on a college sophomore. A few months later, the young man is dead. 2 years later, Morgan Sr. is again having money issues. He purchases a life insurance policy on Michelle Soto. A few months later, she winds up dead. Renee goes public with her findings.
Court records obtained by Unit 5 show Morgan collected $50,000 in life insurance for his son's death and $100,000 in life insurance for Soto's death.
So he's in his son's life for maybe 6 months, and he takes a life insurance policy out on him?
Go figure.
Renee immediately contacts Tyrone Hood's attorney, Jim Mullinex.
I think it's even more suspicious to take out a life insurance policy on a fiancé. In fact, I know of no one who has ever taken out a life insurance policy on a fiancé.
Both victims were found in their cars, gunshot wounds.
When you got the call from Renee Ferguson, what went through your mind?
That's when I got the aha moment. We got the guy. Marshall Morgan Sr. did this to his own son. He did it for insurance money.
In March of 1996, on the eve of Tyrone's trial, it's up to Jim Mullinex to persuade the court that Morgan Sr.'s background casts suspicion on him. And his argument is further strengthened by the fact that the two witnesses against Tyrone have recanted.
I thought I had done enough work to create reasonable doubt.
But little do Tyrone and his attorney know that the Chicago police are about to pull a rabbit out of a hat with a surprise witness. His name is Emmanuel Bob, and he's been silent about the case for 3 years.
That's right.
So what do you got to tell me after 3 years?
All I can tell you is
He tells detectives that the night after Morgan Jr. went missing, he saw Tyrone Hood driving Morgan Jr.'s car.
He said, I remember what happened 3 years ago.
And I was on the second floor.
I was actually up on my second floor apartment, and I heard a car pull up. And even though it was the dead of night,
I saw this blue car pull up underneath the street.
he claims to have seen Tyrone Hood behind the wheel of the car that was Marshall Morgan Jr.'s.
So you're absolutely sure you saw Tyrone driving this
It
car?
was Tyrone. Tyrone was driving the car.
This witness comes up at the 11th hour.
The night before the trial is when they found him. Yes. Highly suspicious. I didn't believe him.
But the judge does believe that Emmanuel Bob is an impartial and convincing witness. So what about all the evidence that seems to implicate Morgan Sr.?
You with me?
The judge disallows it.
Answering questions about his background, the fact that he had a prior conviction involving another killing.
You were not allowed to
I
ask.
was not allowed to ask those questions.
It's a devastating turn of events for Tyrone Hood. Tyrone's found guilty of first-degree murder. and sentenced to 75 years in prison.
Well, when he said guilty, right then in my life, I knew right then it wasn't going to be the same. Everything that I had was just, I wasn't going to get back no more at all. Everything I loved.
Wayne, worried about getting his own 75-year sentence, accepts a deal. He pleads guilty to first-degree murder and is sentenced to 25 years.
While I was in prison, I had children born that I never got to see born. I lost both my grandmothers.
Meanwhile, Morgan Sr. starts a new life with a woman named Deborah Jackson. They're happy together for a while. But in 2001, Morgan Sr.'s old problems return.
All I asked is some cabinets. You can't even do that?
Yeah, I just said I don't have it right now.
They
Exactly.
quarrel over money.
Right now.
You know what? You ain't never gonna get it. I am so sick of you. Get away from me.
And what's about to happen has the power to rewrite the past. Coming up.
We are investigating the possibility that Morgan Sr. was involved with his son's death.
Yes, I knew it.
While Tyrone Hood begins serving his 75-year sentence for the murder of Marshall Morgan Jr., the victim's father, Morgan Sr., is having relationship troubles with his girlfriend, Deborah Jackson.
Get away from me. No.
He shoots Deborah in the stomach and leaves her dying in the back of her car. 10 days later, Deborah's body is found. Like Morgan Jr. and Michelle Soto, she too is nude from the waist down. Chicago police soon have Morgan Sr. in custody.
My hand was on the trigger. And when she reached for the gun, I lunged back and she lunged back, and as if she was throwing her hands up in the gun discharge, I fired the gun.
He confesses to killing Deborah Jackson.
Marshall, why did you shoot her a second time?
I guess, I ran a rage, I guess.
So now you start counting them up. There are 4 people close to Morgan Sr. who wind up dead.
Did you leave Deborah in the trunk?
Yes.
Do you know whether or not she was alive or had she expired by when you placed her body in the trunk?
She was still alive.
How do you know that she was still alive?
I saw her hands moving.
And after you placed her body in the trunk and closed the trunk, what was the next thing that you did?
Got back in the car, put her purse, picked the purse up off the ground and put it in the back seat of the car. Drove the car to 47th. Got out of the car because the trunk popped up. Closed the trunk back and parked the car on 47th and Wentworth.
What did you do when you got on 47th Street by Wentworth?
Got out of the car, placed the gun and the keys underneath the seat, and caught the L train.
After he killed Deborah Jackson, he went and picked up her daughter and took her to their family event. Like, how much more of a sociopath monster can you be to do something like that? You just killed this little girl's mother, and you're picking her up, and you're saying, oh, I don't know where your mom is. You just killed her.
Will prosecutors now consider the possibility that it was Morgan Sr. who murdered his son, and that Tyrone Hood is innocent? In August of 2007, they talked to Tyrone about a new theory they have regarding Morgan Sr.
Look, Tyrone.
Are you thinking it's possible that they're going to overturn your conviction?
I thought they had so much evidence that they say, look, we sorry. He did this to Deborah Jackson, Michelle Soto, and his son. We got enough evidence to convict him. We sorry. We releasing you. That's what I thought.
You really thought that?
Yeah.
But what he didn't know is that what the prosecutors really wanted him to say is they wanted him to implicate Marshall Morgan Sr. as contracting him to kill Marshall Morgan Jr.
Did Morgan Sr. hire you to kill Morgan Jr.?
What? They was asking me, did he pay me to kill Marshall Morgan Jr.?
I don't know Morgan Sr.
Because if they get Tyrone to say, I killed the kid because the old man paid me, then it solves all their problems. They get Tyrone, he still is convicted of a murder, and they get Morgan Sr. He too is convicted of a murder, and he's doing time anyway.
I said, no, I never seen that man.
Man, I didn't kill Morgan Jr. I've been trying to tell you guys that forever. It wasn't me.
That man ain't never offered me a dime for doing anything. I never seen his son, I never seen the mother, I never seen none of them.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Tyrone is sent back to his prison cell, while Wayne Washington is paroled after serving 12 years, and Jody Rogers was not convicted at all in this case. Tyrone fights for a retrial. And when I first spoke to Renee, she was as angry as Tyrone.
It leaves me with sleepless nights. It does, because I realize that this is truly an innocent man. And it leaves me as a reporter thinking, well, what in the world am I here for if I can't get justice for this person? And so my hair is on fire.
The detectives in Tyrone's case have faced other complaints of physical abuse that allegedly resulted in false confessions between 1989 and 1996. They have never been charged with abusing Tyrone, Wayne, Jody, or anyone else, and continue to deny any such abuse ever occurred. Marshall Morgan Sr. is serving a 75-year sentence for the murder of Deborah Jackson. He denies killing his son, Morgan Jr., and he denies killing his girlfriend, Michelle Soto. Her murder remains unsolved to this day.
What would it take to bring justice for your mother?
I want him to be in prison for my mom's death. I want him to confess that he did it, because he did it. I want that closure, and I want that justice for my mother.
So at this point, now, as we sit here, what is your hope?
All I need is somebody to convince the state attorney, look, y'all don't have to say you're sorry, just let this innocent man go. Marshall Morgan Jr. mother needs to know I didn't kill her son. She needs to understand that the police did not give her justice.
It's true that we do have one of the best legal systems in the world. But in this case, did they get it right?
I'm still here. I'm just hoping that that right group of people say, look, this is enough. Let that man out.
Then, while I was finishing this story, it took its first turn. On January 12, 2015, outgoing Illinois Governor Pat Quinn released Tyrone by commuting his sentence. But that didn't mean Tyrone had been found innocent. He was released with time served and was on parole, hoping the state would dismiss all charges and reverse his conviction. Tyrone wanted to share with me the elation he felt of being released right after he arrived in Chicago. So, what was it like, that moment, when you found out you were really going to be free?
I felt like I can breathe now. That penitentiary, the lifestyle in there, it just mentally, physically, spiritually, it just tears you down slowly. It tears you down. And when I got out, I could breathe. I could really breathe air, life back in me. And I was like, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, Pat Quinn, thank you.
Catching up on your own life, Tyrone, what is that like?
Scary. Right now, I'm focusing on clearing my name and living one day at a time. That's all I'm focused on right now.
I remember asking you, when you were in prison, when I was there with you, about your kids.
Yeah. And I got teary-eyed. You know what, this is gonna sound strange, but every time I dream about my kids, They are the same age they was when I got locked up, 4, 6, and 7. Now, I can't dream about them right today as they are today, grown. They can't give me that back.
What do you do about all those years that you lost?
Move on. I can't get angry about what I had lost.
You're one of the most positive people I have ever met.
I can't live in the past. I just can't.
Don't look in the rearview mirror.
No. When I do get my life back, I'm going to enjoy it the way I need to enjoy it.
100%.
110%.
Then, on February 9th, 2015, the case took yet another turn. The state attorney's office dismissed all charges against Tyrone Hood and Wayne Washington. As Tyrone said, the truth finally did set him free.